Art teachers of Reddit, what is the most disturbing artwork a student has ever submitted? Little girl drew a picture of a woman performing oral sex on a man. Teacher thought she was being molested or something, so CPS was called. Turns out the little girl got into her older brother's secret folder on his laptop. Unlucky to the brother. Yeah. But it could have been so much worse. Everything got resolved pretty quickly, thankfully. This turned from potentially horrifying to funny. Thank you for sharing. We had a girl creep out one of my art teachers by drawing the other students at school dying in Final Destination scenarios. That kid's cool. She lines definitely be going places. For sure. Friend was an art teacher. Student drew a whole family, but drew a lady in white with long shaggy hair a distance away from the family. She asked the kid who that was. Student replied, "Oh, that's my real mum. She visits me every night when everyone asleep through the wardrobe door." Nope. On the wall in a classroom I use, a student from another class completed a My Hero worksheet. Their hero is the anaconda, and it includes a detailed explanation of how anacondas kill their victims. This is my favorite. My mother grew up in a small town mainly consisting of relatives of various degrees. I have witnessed how just insanely mean these people are. And how her school had a newspaper she submitted a poem about her going to town and shooting members of her school/town. They published it. My mother tells me this and laughs. After attending this school for several months in 5th grade, I can tell you firsthand I was never so glad to get out of there. My mother has a sick sense of humor, but is not violent, and if this happened today, God knows what they would have done to her. Not an art teacher, but I used to go draw with a little girl a day every week for a few months. She was interested in arts and her parents wanted her to explore her interest a little, but not in a formal way. More like a fun little hobby, and yes, I was paid for this. One day I told her to draw me anything for the next week. She drew me her sister being covered in spaghetti and her eating pasta off her. It does not sound disturbing, but at first I thought she drew herself eating her sister's brain or insides, or some shit, lol. A macaroni painting of a pig wearing a bikini lingerie and a stick figure man standing uncomfortably close to the pig's rear end. I'm very worried about what that little boy is witnessing on the farm, where he lives here in New Zealand, or he watched Black Mirror. Sexual assault trigger warning. Not an art teacher, but a child I worked with once painted a picture depicting himself and his brother in his front yard. His brother was towering over him with a large rod the size of his leg extending out from the middle of his body. It faded into his closed legs, so that its exact origin looked ambiguous, but you can guess what it was. We later found out that the brother was raping him. I needed to read this twice to understand. This was fucking disturbing. Why is it that the kids I cannot get to pick up a paintbrush will spray paint penises all over the school and get expelled? Well, would you let them paint penises? They apparently have a thing for them. I'd just sit there for hours on end, drawing dicks. I do not know what it was. I could not touch the pen to paper without drawing the shape of a penis. They literally stopped me from eating foods that were shaped like dicks. You know how many foods are shaped like dicks? The best kinds. Not sure if this counts, but in 4th grade we were prompted to write a short story on anything we would like using a proper plot. And I did mine on a cursed island that me and my 2 friends explored. At the beginning of the book I needed to come up with a name for a popular magazine my friend was gonna be reading. I came up with the name Hot Girls Weekly, with the intent of it being full of fashion models. Later my teacher talked to me about it. Luckily I didn't get in trouble. She just said just try to make it more appropriate next time. I didn't realize what she meant by that until many years later. LOL. I was the student in this situation. I drew Satan a lot. Like a super hot buff Satan every single day. Parents and teachers were concerned, and they asked me why I was drawing Satan all the time. And it turned out that because my mom was religious, I assumed she would be happy that I was drawing religious imagery. Not an art teacher. We went to my son's first kindergarten open house. All the parents were enjoying their children's first artwork at school hanging all over the classroom walls. We looked for my sons and the teacher finally pointed it out to us. It was a shark eating a clown, surrounded by bloody water. The drawing was actually very good. Art-wise, That's probably unfortunate. He's a normal fully functioning college kid now. But we watch him closely for a while. That's probably unfortunate. Got an actual laugh out of me. I got one myself. I really wanted to write a zombie survival comic book back in high school early 2000s and had a storyline and an elaborate theme that involved a student escaping his high school overrun by the zombies, only to have to help save his friends and remaining family. Problem is that I made sketches and maps of zombie hordes and what he did to evade them. If anyone looked at my sketchbook at that time, especially post Columbine shootings, it would have looked like I wanted to do a killing spree at my high school. The zombie gore and drawings would have looked like I was homicidal. Luckily a half decade later, Brooks and all those guys wrote great books that made me realize I have no talent for story writing. LOL. I bet your story was still better written than the Walking Dead TV series. Not the teacher, but the student submitting the art. Our task was to make a film still, bashfully a photo of a single frame of an existing or theoretical film. I decided to make a film still about an American soldier dying in northern France 1944 to a German sniper. I used a fake shot wound and fake blood, and well, let me tell you, my photo editing skills made it so damn good. OP, you are getting a B. Just please understand I cannot hang it out in the hall with some of the other photos. I really want to see this. The problem is I can't do that without leaking my face, which is a no-go as of now. Simply censoring it would destroy the photo's effect. That is based on the facial expression and my Oscar-worthy dead void glance. Laughing. That makes sense. Not teacher but a classmate. We were tasked to do a pilgrimage consisting out of 20 individual pictures. So each student had to communicate with 2 people, so the lines etc. match. Well, there was this one picture where a Nazi Yeti hanged himself while saluting to his savior in a dark cave. Emerging from said cave is an army of Nazi soldiers who killed the pilgrims. The girl next to him just continued to draw a happy picture, but without any pilgrims. That girl's a G. She really was. I was the student. Though to be fair, the teacher was absolutely not so. Not actually disturbing in general, but to my freshman high school art teacher, she was so offended and flabbergasted by my choice of work that she had to sit me down and discuss things on multiple occasions. She could not ever imagine why, and I quote, such a sweet young girl would ever make such things. The first one was an assignment to paint a sunset sunrise with tree silhouettes. I was also doing a paper on the Salem witch trials in another class and decided to add a single noose to one of my tree silhouettes. I even titled it Salem Sunrise, and she freaked out and thought I was going to kill myself. She called my mom about it, and my mom took my side. A few assignments later, she offered extra credit for something or another. So I logged onto my DeviantArt, this was around 2004, to show her a digital piece I was working on for the egg. She scolded me for using a website with the word deviant in the title, and no matter what I showed her, and that I had the 18+ filter on, she decided to get it banned from the school network purely based on the title. Yet another time I was in the library on my lunch break and she came up behind me and noticed I had 2 tabs open: Malice Miser lyrics and Dungeons Dragons basic rules. Again, she freaked the frick out, literally yelling at me in front of everyone else that I was looking up porn and I should be ashamed. What other naughty art I made was a clay coil cup I textured to look like a snake. A large gradient black to blue collage made up entirely of eyes I clipped from magazines. Multiple realism charcoal portraits of goth-styled people I found online. And a set of clay rune stones. I was not, visually, an alternative person, so maybe she was confused by my interests. By the end of the first year, she had repeatedly told me that none of my work showed any potential, and I would go nowhere with art. Middle of sophomore year, I had already taken all art classes my school offered. I transferred to an art-focused high school my junior year, went to fine arts college, and now use my skills to make food art. Suck it, Mrs. I do not frickin' remember your name. Nutso sounds right. Shame when teachers try to stifle instead of nourish. I teach gifted kids. I teach them from 2nd grade through 4th grade. They learn the first day of class that means Ronda S. rules. No killings and no major violence. This particular kid was in 4th grade, so he knew very well what was acceptable and what wasn't. My students had to write a story where they were superheroes and had to use their strengths and weaknesses as their superpowers. This student wrote that aliens attacked people by sucking their bodies up in the air, and while up in the air the ship would literally shred them to death. So you can just imagine what his picture looked like. Thankfully I was able to join the classroom teacher's parent-teacher conference. I told mom how it worried me. She tells me how she was teaching her daughter to punch him in the face because he needed to learn how to take a punch. I ended up sharing this info with the principal since we are mandatory reporters. The following year the gifted teacher said he was to write about something he was very proud of doing. He said, frying an egg, sliding it out, and hitting his sister in the face with the hot skillet. After the talk with his new gifted teacher I totally believe it. Earlier this school year, he is now a junior, all schools were put on a real lockdown. Come to find out the night before he posted on Facebook he was going to bring a gun to school and get some people. Once they found out, they checked his book bag. I believe they found a gun in it, but that it was unloaded. When I found out what happened, but they hadn't said who it was, I was convinced it was him or one other student. Such a smart boy who was so sweet when he was young, and I believe mom was totally to blame. He was never actually diagnosed, but I believe he probably had Asperger's syndrome because his anger was more against his classmates than teachers' principals that you would see in oppositional defiant disorder. Not an art teacher, ex-English teacher. A girl from 2nd grade drew a mutilated cow with its guts laying around and blood all over it. At the time I did not know how to react, so I reacted like everything was fine and just told her okay. I see when she showed. I think she got disappointed that she did not get any reaction from me because she had not drawn anything disturbing since. Not the teacher but the student. My Sonic the Hedgehog phase was at this time. Created a demonic shadow and rouge hybrid like their child. I'm an art teacher and I have a 1st grader who draws Sonic in every assignment. When I asked if he was drawing Sonic his face lit up and he asked you know Sonic. Absolutely precious. Who I was this student. I loved body horror in high school and my final portfolio was filled with blood and guts. I was never trying to be an edgelord, but I definitely was LOL. Not a teacher, but the student. I drew the Pokemon Alakazam as a skeleton with the word spoon written across the upper torso. He called my parents. I'm so glad I did not give him the Jenga one that said boo. Please could you explain? I ashamedly do not get it. Alakazam is a Pokemon from Kanto. The assignment was the power within, and the teacher said to take what we like and show it is true power. This was late Zyurus. So I wanted to do something that had a mega evolution. I did regular Alakazam skeleton with the word spoon drawn on his torso. It was because the mega just added more spoons in my opinion. Mine was meant to be a meme. He called my parents because I was in high school at the time. Let me know if you need more info. I read that 3 times before I finally got it. XD I blame my medication. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain it to Dopey me. Not me but my friend was a student in this case. We had to draw an illustration of one of the scenes from one of the books we had to read for the class and my friend chose a scene of the main character's mother dying after falling in front of a train. It was a mainly black and white painting of train rails with red blood everywhere. We were like 9yo, and to me, it seemed pretty cool, but I wonder what the teacher thought. Hey, if the school assigned the book with that scene in it, they had to cause to complain there. I saw something on the internet where this girl drew a picture of a big spade and her mom next to it, and customers throwing money to buy the last one and the teacher thought it was a drawing of the mom stripping. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.